Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. And today we are featuring from the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse line, we have Martian Manhunter. Alright, so I bought this at my local Target last week, and I don't know why it has this giant sticker on the front of the bubble. It was like this when I bought the toy. This was the only figure they had of the gold labeled Martian Manhunter, so I kind of felt, it was a figure I wanted, and I'm like, I should just get this. They didn't have any other copies of it without this weird sticker. And, the joke was on me because I think like a week later or a few days later, I actually saw more of these at another Target with a perfectly fine box, and I don't know. I could have returned this and just, grabbed this from another store, but I was kind of lazy. And just now I realized that the tape on here is broken as well, so I don't know if this was a return or not. Either way, we're going to take a look at this. So we have the gold label Martian Manhunter. I know there's a lot of collectors out there who are like old school OG DC comic fans, and this is the Martian Manhunter they wanted. They wanted the much more, classic look, which we're getting right here. The previous Manhunter we got was from DC Rebirth, so it's a much more modern take on the character. For me, which version do I prefer? I don't really care. I've been collecting DC figures for a long time, and I already have, this character in different forms as it is. I have a DC Classics one by Mattel. I have a DC Collectibles version of the New 52 Manhunter. And, for me, this is just more of the same. It's a figure I got. It's a character I already have previously in my collection. This is just McFarlane's take on it, which I welcome, just in the event that, I'm sure they'll do DC Classics of everybody. So at some point in time, I got to build up that collection if I want, like, the key, like, core classic Justice League characters. There's that upcoming 2-pack with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, which looks amazing. And if you want classic Justice League from the 80s, you kind of need this guy. So let's get started. Like I said, the tape was already broken on this guy, so I'm not sure if this is a returned product. But as I'm looking at him, it looks like he's still in this tray. All the plastic ties are still in place, so don't really know what's going on. But okay, so we have his trading card, and then we have his display. And the figure itself looks great. It's Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter, aka John Jones. One of the things I remember from the comic books is that he's really fond of Oreo cookies and a cold glass of milk. I remember reading an issue of Justice League, I can't remember which one, and I think he was going to spend some time on the moon by himself. And it might have been one of the Green Lanterns. They knew he was going to be, chilling on the moon, so they thought it'd be a nice to gift John, I think a box of Oreo cookies and a gallon of milk, just so he could, while he's chilling, he has something to snack on. So that's one of the weird oddball things about Martian Manhunter that I remember. Besides the fact that he lost his family, blah, 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 and he's scared of fire. Alright, so we have Martian Manhunter. This is much more classic look. The figure right now, it's very classic. It doesn't seem like they take a whole lot of embellishments on him. They do apply some texturing to his clothed pieces, like his boots and his tights. And there's some nice trim lines on his harnesses and belt. But besides that, it's pretty core. You know, it's a very solid version of the classic rendition of this much beloved Justice League member. This guy stands in at about, let's see, almost 7 inches exactly. The one thing I can tell you right now I am not liking about the character is, I say this all the time with characters who have capes. I don't like how the cape is kind of flowing around and how it's kind of very asymmetrical. It's a lot shorter on his left side than it is on the right. And it's just kind of blowing, you know, flowing in the wind. It's a cool effect, but for me, you know, if I'm displaying this on my shelf, it's just going to get in the way of another character. I like capes that are just strictly neutral, going straight down. But it's all right. It looks nice. The quality control on my figure is kind of shoddy over one of the legs. As you can see right here, it's a little scuffed up on the muscle above the knee. It's a little scratched up. It's weird. I've never had that on a McFarlane figure before. This figure's kind of odd too, because the way it's proportioned, he's not very lean. He's kind of very muscle heavy. And if you took away the cape, give me a second and see if I have it on me. All right, so over here we have He-Man, and as you can tell, he's missing his harnesses. But I'm looking at this figure, and there's something about his proportions. There's something about his costume. If you remove the cape, and he's bald, and if you take He-Man's hair, yes, He-Man's hair just comes off. It's just glued on, and I'm I'm so curious about this. He almost looks like He-Man in some weird ways. If you could get this on. I wonder if his cape comes off. If his cape, no, his cape is pegged in. But right now, as I'm looking at this guy, oh, this sucks, dude. So if you look at his collar, it's like this loosely glued onto his cape. It's not like it's a solid. That sucks. Yeah, it's just glued. It's just loosely glued on in the back. But I got to do this because I think it looks funny. Let's see if it works. Yeah, the whole time I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, his jawline and his face, this looks like He-Man. And if you could fit this on him, does it look like He-Man? Come on, work. I can kind of see He-Man. See, kind of looks like He-Man. So, all right, let's get this back. Throw this. All right, back to Martian Manhunter. Okay, so the head is very Martian Manhunter. He has that extended brow over his eyes, as you can see right here. He has the red eyes. His lips are very pronounced. Nice, cleanly sculpted, and there's some paint application to like bring them out. And it looks like he has some like light shading under his eyes and above his eyes. It's almost like eyeshadow. His skin actually has a nice texture to it. It's very subtle, but it's just not this bare plastic. You can see some texturing on his skin. The musculature looks really nice. The one thing I always kind of bothered me is that, especially characters that they're not, if their arms are not sleeved and it's just bare flesh, it always kind of bothers me how the elbow joint cuts into the muscle like that. It kind of breaks it up. You know, in certain cases like that, I'd prefer it just being like that in a single jointed elbow where the joints is strictly on the elbow and not cut into the bicep. Nice subtle texture on the cape. It's nothing that's carried away. Even though the cape's flowing, at least the The wrinkles are very realistic. It's not one of those kind of capes where it's very like billowed and like puffy. You know, it's still kind of flat. And the material is also a softer, rubbery plastic. It's not too heavy on the character. The harness, it's cleanly done. You can see some detailing. Also towards the buttons, towards the top. And the buckle. It's a very clean version of Martian Manhunter. You know, this is very true to his, you know, designs that you saw like in the 80s and 90s. His head rotates and he looks down. Good range of motion. And you also see his pointed head. You know, the Martians have pointed heads. I think it's the white Martians where they have the longer heads in the comic book. Alright, so I try to arch his head back and his head is popped off. His head doesn't want to arch back too much. This looks up like that. It's unfortunate because he's a flyer, so it'd be nice if his head could actually go back further, but it's kind of limited. It bothers me that the collar of his cape isn't fully attached. It's only glued in the back, and then the front kind of just folds over. So, his arms rotate. They go out. Butterfly joint. It's that ball-socketed one. Extended range of motion, which is nice. Bicep cut. Double pinned elbows. Like I said, I don't like it if his arm is unsleeved and then it cuts into his bicep. It doesn't look that natural. Articulated wrists. He has a cut mid-torso, so he could swivel there, crunch forward a little, arch back, swivel at the waist, legs kick out about there. Does not do the full splits. Double pinned knees, much like other McFarlane figures. It's very standard for his articulation. It's a great base body if you want to make a custom. If you want to do a custom human character, yeah, I don't think it'd work because the texture on his legs, it's not a very human looking texture. It's almost kind of reptilian in some weird ways. For a second, when I almost wanted to say it kind of reminded me of like the Star Wars dewback, like the kind of texture that's on the skin of that animal. But his chest, though, the texture on his chest, though, it seems different than the texture on his legs. It's a little bit smoother. Let's see if we get this guy in like a flight pose, even though his head doesn't really tilt up. It kind of sucks because when you raise his head back, it kind of forces his collar to... Shoot, his head flew off. Yeah, so when you tilt his head back, it forces the collar to like kind of rise up, and then you see where it breaks away. And as you can see, my head doesn't plug in securely into the neck like it should. It'd be nice if they gave us like a flying hand on one hand. Let's get him in that trademark flying pose. Yeah, that's a nice figure. Overall, you know, if I did rate this guy on a scale of 1 to 10, solid 8, no more, no less. If you are a fan of like classic DC, this is the figure you've been waiting for. You know, I think it's great. For me, I'm not particular about this character and which version I get. You know, I was completely satisfied with, you know, this guy right here, Rebirth, Martian Manhunter. It's odd because the gold label stuff, because I always felt like the gold label stuff means that you're getting a much more premium product. And then it's at the point where the gold label stuff, it's normally like a more basic figure or just like a head swap or a classic look. But for me, this feels more like in line with a gold label figure. It's more detailed. The costume looks a lot better. But it's really more about preference. You know, if you want iconic Manhunter, you're going for this guy. If you want modern Manhunter, you're going with this. You know, if I was like alone on a deserted island. I don't know why I'd want like only one Martian Manhunter figure, but if I had to choose one, it'd probably be the Rebirth one right here. I think this is the much more superior action figure. But, you know, it's like I said, it all comes down to preference. If you're an old school fan, this is for you. If you don't care, this is the way to go. I think this one looks awesome. Alright, so with that being said, let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.